Hey again, so I'd like to talk about what a heterogeneous and polite society actually looks like, because there's actually an interesting. I've been researching the Final Fantasy XIV community and looking through, you know, a lot of the drama and troubles they experience, right, in comparison to disgusting Western society and how far it's degenerated. And one of the big issues is that the Gaijin are invading the glorious Nipponese servers. The Japanese people, exceptionally polite, don't want to play with people that don't speak their own language, right? Amazing concept. How xenophobic. But, so the Japanese people and Japanese politeness, though, they're so polite in comparison to, like, Western filthy pigs. And why is that? Because, when you join a dungeon in the glorious JP server, they're going to say, hey, Mr. X, please, can you speak glorious Nipponese? Can you decipher the moon runes? And then why is that society built that way? And why did, our societies used to be built that way? And why have they degraded? And that's basically what I'm getting out of a lot of that drama about, Western players invading the glorious Japanese players. Us being the, people brought on slave ships owned by Jewish businessmen. Yes, yes. So, and it's clear that, societies that are racially homogenous and, for the most part, traditional, we'll say, seem to have an air of politeness about them, seem to function just much stronger, clean cities, clean streets. People actually care about the society around them. And why is that? Why is a homogeneous society one in which people are, fully enveloped in the warmth of their own faction, their own race, so superior to those that aren't? And it really begs the question. I'm not entirely sure all of the horrors of, a biracial society or, a melting pot like America is, but you can tell that it's a quick race to the lowest of the lowest common denominator when any type of environment like that exists. And the proof is in the pudding. Like we had, primarily Caucasian societies which were polite, clean, they were worth being in, and, feminism isn't the cause of the issue either. I know what some of the edgy boys out there might saying, well, it's the quality of the women is degraded, so is the quality of the men. I don't really think that is the case, because some of the most feminist countries in the world, Korea, Nihon, like China, etc., all of these places are extremely polite and still extremely clean and have decent societies compared to the West, who, like, I'm terrified to walk down the street because I might be stepping in some urban sprawl that's somehow gotten somewhere near me, right? And it's pretty crazy to think about that in the West currently, and how fallen and how pathetic it is. At the end of the day, I think that human beings are, well, I might as well just say it. I think that human beings are different species. I think, that all the different races have their own unique traits and tendencies, and trying to force a bunch of wolves to live with sheep is going to always result in this kind of atrocious, like, aggressive, everyone's society. And by doing that, we end up in a situation where we're basically now forced to exist and live in an environment where we have to be hostile towards everyone else and the environment as well, because it's foreign, it's dangerous. And that is the reality, though. It's not that, any one race in particular is dangerous. It's the fact that the races are different is why they're dangerous. It's because, the different race, because they're not like you. And that's, the same sort of approach you would take with an alien. Like, and that's the reality of the situation. So when you have a whole bunch of that all in a close proximity, you start to lose the ability to care for the society as well. Like, when we look at, what have you, some sort of grandiose, great, type of society, right, where everything is hunky-dory, everyone, at least going outside, if they're not a criminal, you're not, like, afraid of them, because at least you have that in common. or is that you have nothing in common with your fellow American. Like, people are often complaining now because Western men aren't defending Western women, right? And, you know, they voted for this, first of all. They kept voting, you know, they wanted this. What? They're strong and independent now. And that's all well and good, right? But you also run into a scenario where there is no reason to, and it's in fact, you know, just harmful to you if you defend your women in the West. Now, why do I say that? It's because if you're defending your women in the West, you're seen as, you know, you're perpetuating this idea that the Marxists want to get rid of, this patriarchy, you know, this thing they worked so hard to deconstruct. And by doing that, you know, you're antithetical to the ideas of Marxism and a lot of the other things. So the state will hurt you, obviously. That's just what the state does. It's, you know, it exists to repress people and sort of destroy people that, you know, well, I guess a better way of putting it is the state exists to use force, and you are going to have force used against you if you intend to, you know, go against their Marxist ideas, and that's just the reality of the situation. So the state wants you to not defend your own women, and wants, like, you know, the X, Y, and Z to have to suffer through the horrors of, you know, Jamal taking his cultural vengeance against them or whatever, right? And at the same time, they voted for this, you know, they wanted it, so why not give it to them, right? I don't mind that much, like, that's perfectly fine by me, but it's just hilarious, at least as far as I can see, that we, you know, somehow are shocked by any of this occurring. Did I just not hit the button? I'm pretty sure I just didn't hit the button for one of my big damages. Oh well. Yeah. I'm new to this game, don't bully. I'm playing like trash. I'm also not keeping up that thing. I should probably keep up that thing. Yeah, whatever, I'll play with the rotations and stuff later. I just grabbed this class just to farm this as a DPS instead of a tank, just because I want a DPS eventually to be able to solo fates and just do things that would be a little slow on the warrior in comparison, right? So I think I like Machinist best of all the DPS classes I've tested so far, so this won't be bad. This is just because it's level 70, I can instantly start going ham with trust and all that. Uh-oh, mechanics. Yeah, so if we're going to move forward in a society and exist in a way where, you know, we don't have this sort of racial animosity going forward, what does that look like? And the answer is, it looks, you know, like Glorious Nihon. We need a situation where we've gotten to a point in society. I said I was going to build it, whatever, I'm just going to use it. I thought I was going to build up resources and do a big dump, because who cares about the NPCs, but the boss is going to be dead by the time I do that. Yeah, so if we're talking about a racial or harmonized society, we need one to return in the West, basically, right? So one of the ways that you could solve the West that I hadn't thought of earlier, I made a video recently about saving the West, would be a return to keeping all of the racial elements in the society together, right? And so if we need to do that, like, how? Because as far as America's long gone. Like, there is no way to return to any sort of semblance of, you know, having the same race all about, right? There's no way we can bring back, undo, you know, X amount of, basically centuries at this point of, like, polluting our society into the point where it no longer functions. Is that an upgrade? No. That is not even for my class. Unlucky. Oh no, they've been turned into mothballs. Yeah. So, anyways, but I don't see any way back from this, or any way to save America, or, you know, the West in general. Our racial fate is pretty much sealed, and we will never live in a society that's racially homogenous like the Japanese, that's polite, clean, and nice. Going forward, you know, this is just the end of days, basically. This is just the fate of the glorious Amerikanji. We will be the disgusting invaders to another nation's sanctity, right? In the case of what we're doing to the Japanese, just in this video game alone. Like, I know I'm comparing like a video game to real life, how cringe, but at the end of the day, it's just very sad that, you know, we have to exist in a timeline where, you know, because of the actions of our elected leaders and women basically getting the vote now, we've completely broken apart society and any boundaries in it. Like, I think you can have a racial society if it's tiered and oppressive by default, but when you remove that oppression and just let people intermingle as they please, your society will necessarily trend towards destruction. And, you know, at the end of is this solved in like 100 years when everyone's just some brown blob with Jewish overlords? I don't know. What I do know is, though, that it's cringe, and I wish there was a place where I could go that was racially homogenous. Not even Israel is racially homogenous. There's 20% of Arabs, so global hobo even comes for, you know, glorious Israel. Like, it's just what it is in modern day society. We're going, this is probably one element of the great filter is, you know, speciesism. But I've said enough that could get me canceled on YouTube already. You guys have a good day.